I'm Edward October, and this is A Nefarious Nightmare. This podcast contains foul language and discussions of violence. Additional trigger warnings will be posted as needed in the show notes. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Amanda Cronin.
And I'm Courtney Fenner. And this is A Nefarious Nightmare.
Hi, I'm Amanda Cronin from A Nefarious Nightmare podcast. Melissa and Whitney from Colts Crimes in Cabernet were so gracious to invite us on to discuss ethics and ways to advocate for or on the behalf of victims and survivors of crime. I was unfortunately unable to make the conversation, but just know I'm there in spirit. This conversation is so important and much needed in this space. Please listen as Courtney, Melissa, and Whitney have a roundtable type of discussion on ways to be ethical and advocate correctly. You'd be surprised at some of the amazing ways that were mentioned, and virtually none of them cost a dime. Before I sign off and have them continue the conversation, I want to remind you all that bees are resilient, yet vulnerable. They are necessary for life, and without them, we are doomed. We see victims and survivors as bees, so we must protect them at all cost. So be vigilant, for when you mess with the bees, you get the hive. Enjoy this episode.
Happy bonus episode.
Happy bonus. We are here with Courtney from Nefarious Nightmare. A Nefarious Nightmare? Nefarious Nightmare. Yes. I mean, either way gets you there, right?
Yeah. It's all a nightmare. It's all nefarious. It's there. So.
Awesome. We're having a glass of wine or beverage of choice. I actually don't have wine this time. I have a Truly, which is a beverage.
It's a beverage.
It's my weeknight beverage, but
yes.
I do have wine because it is a special occasion. So I am drinking Emu in the Sky.
Nice.
It is a 2021 Merlot.
Ooh.
Yes, very
It's been
nice.
a little chilly, so you've had to switch back to the reds.
I did. I've been back to these reds lately.
Yeah. Courtney, what do you got?
Chai tea latte.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, I wish I could say I drank, but I don't. But
Well, I wish I could say I didn't.
No, my co-host, she'll drink for me. Like, I drink vicariously through her, so it's all good,
That's all you need.
There you go.
So today I'm drinking vicariously through y'all. So.
All right. We'll take it.
We drink enough for more than just us. We'll say that.
We do.
Nice. I envy y'all so much.
Well, we decided to reach out to some of our favorite podcast friends, especially these wonderful ladies, and share our experience with action-oriented advocacy and kind of what that means to us, how listeners can get involved, how other podcasters can get involved, and really just create a shift in the true crime community.
Yes. I hate jumping in. I'm so sorry. No, I really think that a shift needs to occur because there's so much happening where awareness is being raised, which is a good thing. But then you've got some podcasters that are coming in. They're almost kind of being rebellious and being like, no, I'm going to go glorify X, Y, and Z while these victims are out here feeling kind of slighted. You know what I mean? So it's just it's time for a change to occur. To make everybody aware that nobody's trying to gatekeep anybody. I come from a victim background. Like, I've had some things happen to me. One of the things that just so happens to be in the name of y'all's podcast. So, yeah. And I can kind of say that I completely feel what these family members and victims are saying whenever some things happen, like documentaries coming out and they're just saying, no, please don't watch that. That's inappropriate. And I'm like, yeah, I completely get that, but others might not. So let's jump in and put them in our shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's all we're trying to shift. And it wasn't always like this for us. We started this podcast literally day drinking, not in the best circumstances. And then we saw a need, we saw a shift, especially after meeting family members of those who have gone missing or had been murdered. It resonates with a lot of us that, hey, these are real people, real lives on their very worst day of their life. Let's not exploit that. And what can we do to help?
Mm-hmm. Right. Whitney, what do you have to say about that?
Well, like Melissa said, we did start with the sensationalized, the Ted Bundys, all those things that everyone knows. That's what we started with because that's what we knew as a true crime content consumer. And when we decided that something didn't feel right about the way we were talking about these things, and we reached out to the case advocate for Brandon Lawson for our first, what we consider a deep dive case. We call them our Merlot files because our branding is a little wine related. Right. That once we had that conversation with Jason and met him on the side of the road where Brandon went missing, and you feel what those family members feel in a very minuscule way, there's no way we could take on the 8 years that he was gone missing. We don't know what that feels like. He wasn't our loved one, but when you stand on the side of the road and the atmosphere is different and you can feel that something wrong happened and how do you change it? It's not just cracking jokes about a serial killer, or it's not watching a documentary that's just out there to make millions of dollars. You have to do something. Yep. And all we knew to do was volunteer our time. We are both mothers, and that's what we do for our kids is, okay, at school, they need volunteers. We sign up, we give our hours, and we decided to take that same aspect and that same role into podcasting. And it started with a foot search, or it started with handing out flyers. It started with sharing a Facebook post. You don't have to do major things to change this community.
Right. To make a difference. It really can be just as simple as sharing a Facebook post. Whitney and I had the opportunity at the True Crime Podcast Festival to conduct a roundtable where everyone in the room had 9 opportunities to advocate for a missing person or a murdered victim. And by the time they left this 45-minute session, just giving people the ideas, because people want to help. People are basically good regardless of the industry that we're in. We obviously see the worst of the worst, but people want to help. They just don't know where to start, or if, it's the responsible thing to do. And Whitney and I will touch on how you can do things to help these victims while being responsible about it.
Right on. Let's circle back to Brandon Lawson real quick. So I think this is really weird because it's almost like it's fate that we're talking today, because around the same time that y'all were doing your foot search, right, we had covered Brandon Lawson on ours as well. And I was like, oh, I need to reach out to them. We need to do a promo swap or something. So it's just like, wow, we really are kind of on the same page. And it's really funny that you also said that there's you don't have to do too much to be able to advocate, for a victim or a family member. You mentioned sharing a Facebook post. One of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up is I've always been an ally, both with POC, LGBTQ, etc. But my eyes weren't extremely open until what happened with George Floyd, right? And I felt like such a shit ass. I hope I'm allowed to say that. But
you are.
I just felt like one, because I was like, listen, I work full time. I have at the time she was a 2-year-old. I have all this other stuff going on. I'm caring for my mom, I can't get out to like Whataburger or wherever and start picketing. I can't do that. I feel awful. And another advocate for that was like, well, there's other things you can do. Protesting means donating some canned goods. It means sharing these posts. It means telling your friends, hey, this was inappropriate. It's just like there's so many other things that you can do. Basically, advocating doesn't mean that you need to get yourself front and center. And it's also understood that not everybody has the time or the money for it. But if you have the heart for it, show your heart. It takes maybe 5 minutes at most, and it doesn't have to cost anything. So,
and that's something that we talked about as well, is people want to help, but they don't realize how easy it really is. It costs, I think the thing that I talk to my kids about a lot is that it costs $0 to be kind. It takes zero effort to be kind. Just like you're going to be 90% of America is scrolling Facebook or TikTok or whatever. And people don't realize that a like, a share, a quick comment, how much good that really does.
Right.
Yeah. So there are over 2 billion users on social media platforms. That's worldwide. There's literally a ripple effect when it comes to these Facebook posts. This is one story that we had shared during our roundtable about an Oakland Raider quarterback. He retweeted an Amber Alert. There was a missing 3-year-old in the area. More than 277,000 followers on this quarterback's page was able to, probably most of them saw it.
And if not, didn't share it. They probably shared it too. You know how people are with celebrities.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the followers actually recognized the vehicle and was able to phone the police, which resulted in this toddler being recovered.
Wow.
It's crazy. It just one share changes. Whitney and I always talked about when we started the podcast, it would be amazing to help out a family, just one family in our career of doing podcasting. And then the fact that it came so quickly with the Brandon Lawson case, it like kind of rejuvenated. We're like, okay, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, regardless of whatever happens in the future. It was meant to be.
And it's got to feel good, doesn't it?
Well, you talked about how strange it was that we were doing the foot search the same time you had encountered the Brandon Lawson case. I can take it one step further. January 15th, 2021 is the day Melissa and I met Jason on the side of the road to cover Brandon's case for the first time. January 15th, 2022 is the day we did the foot search that recovered Brandon.
Wow. That's
And
crazy.
we didn't realize it until that day. And I mean, I shouldn't have said we recovered Brandon. We recovered evidence leading to human remains being found. We are still awaiting DNA results on that. So I can't say 100% without a doubt, but in our hearts, we know that it's Brandon. We're just waiting on that confirmation.
And that is why y'all are so badass. Okay. So yeah, no, I absolutely think that y'all are amazing for that. Seriously. I mean, I remember seeing all of that like kind of go down, and I was just like, I want to do a foot search, like not for my own thing. Like nobody wants to really come across, something horrific, but there's just something about helping, and knowing that you did something that just feels so good. Right. And with that, we're talking about advocacy, we're talking about being ethical. And on the other side of all of that, there's something that feels really gross about not doing the right thing. You know what I mean? So again, just to reiterate, it really costs $0 to do any of this. And it doesn't take any time if you do it right. So what are some things that y'all would suggest for people? I mean, I have a list, but for you guys, like what would y'all suggest to listeners and creators alike to do if they kind of find themselves stuck in a rut on like, well, what do I do?
Well, the easiest thing for us, we've already kind of touched on this, was sharing the social media. But with that, we want to make sure that people understand that comes with responsibilities. You want to make sure that you're sharing accurate information. Sharing inaccurate information can, in fact, hinder an investigation or hinder finding a missing person. If you report that a missing child was in a white vehicle when it was actually a black vehicle, that is a game changer. So the best way to do that is if you see a flyer, do a quick Google search before sharing if you have the time. And just, compare notes. It takes not a lot of time to compare the notes of an Amber Alert, especially when most people get them on their phones. Also, updating that information when you have it available. So if someone is found, make sure that if you shared that post, go back and edit it so that people know they're found. Because people are sharing missing persons flyers weeks, days, even hours after they've been found. Doesn't help. It still creates hysteria when it's not necessarily needed.
Yeah, basically take it down right away once it's been confirmed. I want to piggyback off of that, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And let anybody listening know about a mistake that I'd made, right? So
We're
you
all
were saying,
human.
yeah, absolutely. We are all human, but, and it was with like the best of intentions too. But basically, a couple of months ago, somebody had reached out and said, and I'm not going to name any names, but this is a great example of what you're talking about. They had reached out and said, this person has been missing and we need your help, spreading awareness. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a minor. I need to help. So without doing any research or anything like that, I'm sitting here like spreading awareness, maybe talking bad to people that are like, oh no, she's not missing. She's a runaway. Da, 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 da. I'm like, stop victim blaming. Da, da, da. I'm just kind of being a little bit of an airhead, to be honest with you. But then I found out that she had indeed run away because she was being abused in that situation. So that was the mistake I made. And basically that's me saying, don't do what I did. Yes, absolutely research whatever you're going to put out there before you put it out there, because you don't want to give false information. And it didn't feel good when I found that out. I was just like, oh man, I've been fighting the wrong battle, still kicking myself, and it's been months. So
I think we've all done something, especially if you're doing this podcasting thing for any bit of time. If there's always one article that slips through or, something, that you're just like, oh my God, how did I miss that? And it happens. We just do our best. Hey, correct it. Send out don't even get me started on today's mess up of mine about our audio quality. We had to put a notice out there. So things happen. I think if your heart's in the right place and you're trying to be better than you were the day before, that's really all that matters.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Be honest, own your mistakes. Again, we are all human. No one is expecting perfection, and if you are, then I'm sorry, we are not the podcast for you, because exactly. I'm severely flawed in a lot of ways. So don't expect perfection from me. We are a shit show.
Do you realize how incredibly strong you have to be willing to take accountability for your actions? Just saying. Because there are some people that have been told over and over and over again, oh my gosh, you are being severely offensive. Not to y'all. I'm just saying,
no, in general. Speaking in generalities, I got you.
Yeah. But they're just like, oh my gosh, this is problematic. Da, 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 da. And they don't take accountability. Instead, they ignore the messages and keep doing it. It's just like, to me, and I'm sure I can speak for a lot of people, but to me, if you're not going to take that accountability, I see you as weak, and everything that I learn from you is not anything I'm learning. I'm learning about drama, not the truth. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, basically y'all take accountability when y'all make a mistake, and that's perfectly fine. You're human. That's great. We all should be that way. So
definitely. Another one of the ways that you can very quickly help advocate is to sign petitions. So if you go over to change.org, it's one of the more common websites for these petitions. They actually have about 70,000 petitions right now on there each month. There's 1.7 million people joining their network every month. Whitney and we share these petitions, especially if there's one related to our cases that we're researching. There is a lot about missing and murdered Indigenous women or Indigenous people, because they go missing at a rate so high that it's absolutely ridiculous, and there needs to be some legislation changed about. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and change.org or these petitions definitely are the first gateway, or a great gateway. It's not the first step you can take towards changing legislation. There's a million steps you can take towards changing legislation, but this is a more firm footing, because if you've got X amount of people, thousands of people behind you to say this is the change that needs to happen, chances are the politician that needs to get in and put a bill out there to make this change is more likely to listen to it when there's thousands of voices saying, yes, this needs to happen, versus 2 voices saying it needs to happen.
And in their terms, that means they'll be reelected if they do what the people want. So
precisely. Motivation.
Yes, exactly.
I think people should stop being afraid to ask questions. That's one other way of being a true advocate, because I think that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Right.
Completely
You're
agree.
not going to know until you ask, right?
Yeah.
So, and that kind of goes hand in hand with, kind of be wary of the content that you're consuming. If a family member is, very openly bashing a particular documentary, don't listen to or don't watch the documentary, or even take it a step further and be like, look for the sources of the said case, but look for the correct and the ethical ones. And then you can go even a step further and just directly ask the family member or the surviving victims, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I was going to say, we're very family of the victim forward first. They're the ones that have to deal with this day in and day out, even more so than we are like law enforcement. Definitely not other content documentary creators.
Right.
It's usually, what does the family want? And that's what we're going to side with.
Absolutely.
How do y'all feel about maybe asking law enforcement or anybody like that's on a case, like just asking if there's anything you can do to help?
We actually do this already. One of our research prompts in our checklist as we come across new cases is we, of course, submit FOIA requests, because media is not always truthful, is not always honest. It's not always the best source to get information. So we try to go straight to the source of incident reports. Freedom of Information Act, we file those probably 3 a day, it seems like these days. And when I actually had a law enforcement officer reach out to us this week asking us what information we had on a case because we asked for it. And I was like, I'm coming to you for information. What do you mean? What information do I have? Hold on, pump the brakes. And then another a retired detective that's working as a PI now said, well, what do you have? We need to know what you have. And I'm like, I just have what I've Google searched so far. Hold on. What do you have? Let's share what you got. And, we just tell them we are here to help. What can we do to help? Is it something that we can share some more information? Do you have a new tip you're willing to share, or new information you're wanting out there in the world that may spark a new tip? We try to work with them. I mean, we know that not all law enforcement is the greatest, but we also give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt when just trying to further a case.
Right. And not to mention they might know something that we don't. So whether we like them or not, they might know something. So
exactly.
Yeah. And I think, especially because the third and fourth season of Cult Crimes in Cabernet, we're doing all unsolved cases. So a lot of them are still active. They might be cold cases, but they are active. So we don't always get much. But usually we'll get an email back and they'll tell us why they can't release it. And then sometimes it will surprise you that we'll get hundreds of pages and we're like why did they give us all this? And then it's figuring out, okay, what do we really need to look for? Because you want to talk about deep dives or going down a rabbit hole. So we definitely do reach out for all of our deep dives. We reach out to the local law enforcement and see.
Right on.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm looking at my notes.
You're fine.
So one of mine is also again, I mentioned none of us are trying to be gatekeepers or anything like that, but don't be afraid to lean into those who set and even raise the bar. I'm going to shout out 2 perfect examples. Well, aside from you guys.
Okay.
One of them is True Consequences and Sarah Turney.
Yes.
Right. If you are looking for, ethical content to consume, if you are trying to get into advocacy or just ethics in general, I would probably start there and then trickle down, or start from, elsewhere to where you think that it would lead you to that point. But either way, absolutely get into those, because it will pretty much mentor you rather than beat it into you, if that makes any sense. So,
and I think it's important to go back to what you said before of don't be afraid to ask the questions. Reach out to those creators and say, is it okay to consume this person? How do you feel about this type of content? Or this doesn't feel right? Is there a reason it doesn't feel right? And especially when it is a family member of a victim, they're going to say, that's not the greatest choice for that case. We recommend this one. There's a reason that people talk about that one, or, he's going to do it properly.
Yeah. But those 2 are a perfect example of being family and victim focused in their content. And especially if you start with them, you're going to learn and you're going to feel what they felt when their siblings were murdered or went missing. And so I think once you kind of feel that for the families, you're not going to want to go after some of these documentaries that are glorifying serial killers. You're not going to want to do that because you know you can feel their feelings almost.
Yeah. If it feels icky, it probably is icky.
Exactly.
So obviously non-monetary ways to advocate is the easiest way for most people. Money's tight. Inflation's a thing. Like groceries are unreal, but I still have an Amazon problem. As much as I don't like to support Jeff Bezos, I get at least one package a day. The best part about Amazon is that they have Amazon Smile, which then gets a significant portion, I consider it significant since you're not doing anything extra, of the items you already purchased. They donate a portion of the profits to various nonprofit organizations. I currently am doing it to private investigations for the missing. I think that Melissa picked a new one today.
I did, but I changed it 3 times and now I don't remember. Do you I don't remember.
We looked for End the Backlog, but that one wasn't on there. We looked for Charlie Project. That one wasn't on there. It was a local human trafficking one, I think.
Yes, I did a human trafficking organization. So all of the purchases, all the qualifying purchases will send a percentage over directly to that organization. It's amazing. You don't do anything extra. It automatically gets sent.
Yep. Set it and forget it is like the easiest way to donate for me because my mind's going a million different directions and it's super simple. You just log in, you go sign in, choose your charity and start shopping. I mean, it's very simple.
I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because to be quite frank with y'all, I never would have thought about something like that. I never would have thought about something like that. I'm sitting here like, man, when I make $1 million on my podcast, I'm going to give all of it to the victims' families. And then I'm like, here it is almost 2 years later and I haven't made nothing. What can I do? What can I do? But I would love to start purchasing my items that I need from places that will donate back. So, and I never thought about that. So it's just like my mind is kind of blown here. So
but it's just easy things that you really don't even think about that you can do, and it's helping way more than you ever think. Another good one, if you happen to have done one of the DNA kits, Ancestry, I think there's MyHeritage, 23andMe. So you can upload your, it's called the DNA data file from whatever company you did your DNA test into GEDmatch, and this could potentially identify some John and Jane Does, or it also can help you help law enforcement find those people that are violent criminals that have not been caught.
Yeah. And it's more and more frequent that criminals are being caught this way because I feel like the main one everyone really knows about is the Golden State Killer. That was the biggest publicized one that was the man that was arrested through familial DNA matching. But DNA Doe Project is doing amazing things with GEDmatch.
Amazing. I think at CrimeCon this last year in Vegas alone, they had a booth and you can come get your mouth swabbed. They put it off and it's pretty quick that they got the results. If they matched one of the John or Jane Does that they had no idea who they were, there was, I want to say 11, 12 matches to different people. Now they also have to triangulate how distant a relative and that, but it's getting closer. And literally every week there is a new John or Jane Doe that is identified, which is incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
Melissa and I have talked a lot about how I feel we're finally to the point technologically that you're not going to get away with many things much longer. They're going back and they're solving cases from 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60 years ago. And it's just absolutely amazing that it's just a little bit of spit that did that.
Yeah, just a little bit of spit.
Yes, Lady of the Dunes, perfect example. Whitney had covered that case, and then she was just identified just a week or two ago. Yeah. After, it was how many years?
51 years. Or no, 48 years, excuse me.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Are y'all familiar with April Tinsley?
I don't think so.
Sounds familiar.
Oh man, that one really, several of them have broken me, but that one probably has broken me the worst because that little girl looks just like mine.
Oh.
So, but I think if I'm remembering correctly, her offender was caught based off of like DNA profiles going into CODIS or something like that. So
it looks like it. Forensic genealogy. Fort Wayne Police Department identified April's murder in 2018.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
It's awesome. It's amazing work they're doing. They're light years smarter than me, and I'm just so happy at what they're doing.
Yep.
And then the last thing, our last big thing that we like to give out there that doesn't take any money per se is exactly how we started. We gave a little bit of time, and that changed one family that we know of for sure's life forever. But we want to make sure that you're responsible when you're volunteering. Don't attempt any foot searches on your own. Reach out to local volunteer groups and keep an eye out on Facebook pages for local cases for when they're asking for volunteers. Or even reach out to the local law enforcement and say, hey, is there anything I can do to help y'all advocate for any cases? Do you need flyers handed out? I can't tell you how many flyers I've stuck on vehicles in Walmart parking lot as on my way into the store. It's something that we just always have on us, and it's simple. It's simple.
I think another thing that I just thought of is if you're wanting to help and you can't donate your time physically, like if you want to do it like virtually, there is one case that I can recall that needed help. It was a family member that needed help, like getting social media out there. If they're not completely tech savvy, but you happen to be, go help them out. Don't charge them anything. Just do it for them. Make them a Linktree. Make them a Facebook group. Do all this other stuff for them. So that way it takes another thing off of their own plate because they're busy trying to grieve for their loved one and trying to figure out where their loved one is. They don't want to sit there and think about social media, and then again, donating your time. If you do these things for them, why not just be their PR person? You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with doing that for them, and
as long as you're doing it with the right intentions. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, did y'all have anything else to add?
Not for non-monetary. I mean, of course, if you look at it, there's every organization out there is always in need of funds. So if you can contribute financially, we obviously aren't going to tell you no, but we also know that that's not in everyone's wheelhouse or everyone's budget.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, if you can donate, please do so. Like even $1 helps.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But make sure that you know where your money is going because unfortunately there are fraudulent ones out there too.
Yeah.
So
I also want to kind of throw in, and this can kind of segue into the other things we were wanting to talk about, but think about the mental toll that this takes on you as an advocate. We, as podcasters in this genre, see some of the worst things out there. We see some of the worst pictures. We hear some of the worst stories day in and day out. And it's important to keep your mental health stable and take the breaks that you need to take and stuff. It's okay to step away from the case for a day or two if you're getting too involved. And it happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to Melissa. Sometimes you have to take a break. And unfortunately, families don't get that. But you can only be as good of an advocate as your mental health is stable.
Exactly. They like to say that, in order to be in a relationship, you have to love yourself before you can love somebody else. Same thing. If you want to be an advocate, you really need to make sure that your own mental health is in check because you never know what you're going to come across. So you have to be okay in order for others to be okay, because essentially you're going to be in kind of a caregiver role, whether you realize it or not. So, and there are ways, I think that, there's ways that you can step away from a case without completely stepping away, because this is pretty much a 24/7 job if you think about it. But
yes,
Amanda and I recently, we started a second podcast and it's so stupid and I love it.
Those are the best.
Yeah, we have so much fun with it because it's victimless crimes, Florida man. But the whole reason why we do it is because we need a break from the heavy sometimes. So it's like, after we've talked about something heavy, okay, let's record about this guy that was eating cheesecake naked in the middle of marshland, that stuff, you can do things like that. There's different ways of really taking care of your mental health. And I just so happen to think that laughter is the best medicine. Just make sure that you're not utilizing the laughter inside of something that's heavy and being insensitive about it, you know?
Yeah. Definitely don't laugh at a victim's expense. I mean, if it's a guy naked eating cheesecake, laugh that he ate cheesecake in the middle of hot marshland and it's probably expired. You can laugh at that, but don't laugh at a victim's expense.
Right. Absolutely.
Or you could do what Whitney does and laugh at BTK's love for panties.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
I find that hilarious.
Oh, that was way early on.
BTK.
It was so funny though. I still am like, that was like 2 years ago and it's the most hilarious thing ever.
I like to call him a shit sandwich because BTK sounds kind of like BLT to me.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's just my ADD that's coming out.
You're like, it segues into this, which makes him a sandwich.
He's a shit sandwich. He's a shit sandwich that just so happens to like, women's
Panties.
So, yeah.
Yes. Now that I know you're into Florida, man, I live in Florida, so I will send you the random crazy stories that I hear about that might not make national news.
Oh, I was actually planning on asking y'all to join us for one of our episodes at some point.
Let's do it.
We will totally do it. When we were doing a Texas tour, we did a Texas man, and they were hilarious. Hilarious.
I just so happen to live in Fort Worth. And that's Fort Worth is the Florida man of DFW, I think. It's weird. And I worked at their Neiman Marcus. We don't have to get into all of that, but I've got some stories. I learned about Irish travelers. Are y'all familiar?
Oh. No.
I mean, did they just come visit and bring potatoes?
Or is
No. They call themselves Irish travelers. They are I'm not going to say the word that has been used on them because it's considered offensive.
Okay.
But they are not of the Romani people. Does that make sense?
Oh,
I think yes.
Yeah, I'm avoiding the word because it's considered offensive.
Sure.
But they are considered to be of that kind of. But they did I worked at Neiman Marcus and they did really love to go into Neiman Marcus and try to scam you so they could steal a Gucci bag.
Oh,
They
have funny stories.
They always a lot of them talk like they are from like the 1940s, one of those like a detective from the 1940s. Do you know what I'm talking about? That kind of accent.
Yes,
it's weird. They all talk like that.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
All right then.
Does Amanda live around you as well?
She lives in Dallas.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you guys do your recordings together or separate. Whitney and I
we're
are far
separate.
away. Yeah, Whitney and I are really separate.
We're so close, but we're so far away.
Yeah. It's so sad that we don't ever record in person now, ever.
I know. We got too much other stuff to do. We're like, we can record later. We need to do this other stuff in person together.
Yeah.
But it's fun to be able to connect with each other, right? You don't see each other and then you're just like, oh, hi, let's talk about this thing.
Yes.
Seriously, the creation of Zoom and these platforms was really like the greatest thing ever invented. You don't have to put pants on and you can still see your best friend. You know?
Yes. Any time of the day.
Any time of the day.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that y'all actually pulled off of my list quite a bit. I had ask for help, read the sources that are shared. You had mentioned kindness, and I said be kind to one another. If people see division, this is important. If people see division or drama within fellow advocates, nobody will want to be involved, and because they don't take you seriously, and that can absolutely hurt a case. And yeah, we covered everything on my list.
Most definitely.
Same here.
Whitney and I always say that we like to be drama adjacent. We
Drama
don't
adjacent.
We don't want to be in the drama, but just tell me about the drama.
Yeah, you want to know about it.
I want to know about what's going on, but I'm going to stay here in my little closet by myself.
I want to hear about it with my popcorn, but I don't want to be in it. So,
But like you said, there are certain times when drama or confrontation between possibly a creator and a family member that can hinder an investigation, and it can hinder who's going to be taking that, spreading that content or spreading that awareness. And when it turns into just drama fueled entertainment, which is not what we're in. We're not in, Whitney and I talk about this, we're not an entertainment industry.
Right.
Definitely we are, I don't even know, an awareness, content creators that have more than just to bring people entertainment. We like
are
to say
here to educate, but in the sense of, why don't you learn right along with us?
Exactly.
We're gonna help each other. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So our mission statement is actually that we would like to become a trusted resource. Now I forgot it because that's how Whitney's brain works. Just a second. I'm going to pull it up.
We do have a t-shirt that says ethics over entertainment. And it's like, let's do this ethically before it's ever just fun to listen to.
I love that.
It's that we want to be a trusted resource while empowering others to use their voice and create positive change for victims nationwide by using action-oriented advocacy.
I do need that shirt though. Ethics over entertainment. Yep. I can vibe with that for sure.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
all right. This would be the part where I guess we would tell each other where to find each other.
Okay.
This is weird because to everybody that's listening, this is going on both of our feeds. So, you may
It's
not know
really
me.
weird.
I know.
It's kind of strange.
It's all good though. I've done this before with PNW Hans and Homicide. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, that's my girl, Caitlin. She's my girl. But yeah, I mean, you guys, your audience might not know me. My audience might not know you. So let's introduce each other. So
Go for it.
to my audience, this is Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet. They're amazing. Where can we find you guys?
Literally every social media platform. We are Cults, Crimes, Cab everywhere. And that's it.
And then on all podcast platforms as
Obviously.
well. Yeah.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah. And this is Courtney from A Nefarious Nightmare, or any Nefarious Nightmare. It's all nefarious. It's all nightmares, like she said before. Where can our people find you?
And Amanda is here in spirit. She's she's celebrating her son's birthday right now, guys. But you can find us pretty much everywhere. You're most likely talking to, lately you've talking to anybody that's on social media, you're probably talking to Sonia. She is actually helping us out because we talked about mental health. And so I'm stepping away from social media quite a bit. So
I did the same.
Yeah. So my homegirl Sonia is just doing all of that for us. So shout out Sonia, but you can find us on Twitter for now. At a Nefarious Pod, I believe, and then you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Nefarious Nightmare Pod, I believe. If I'm wrong about any of that, really all you have to do is just look up a Nefarious Nightmare, and I'm sure we're gonna pop up. So you'll see a B. There's a thing about the B, but I won't get into that today. But it's important. So
I know we need to talk about these bees eventually on something else.
We'll have another episode so that Amanda can join in, and we'll do the four of us, and we'll talk bees.
Yeah, we gotta save the bees. All victims and survivors are bees.
That's awesome.
Yep, that's the biggest thing I can tell y'all right now. So,
okay.
So the bee discussion is TBD.
Yep,
Yes.
to be determined, guys. So,
Well, thank
All
you.
right.
So
Thank you
much.
so
This was
much
awesome.
for doing this.
oh no, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate this. I don't know if y'all want to sign off.
Well, our sign off is just that know that we will be there for you no matter where.
No matter who.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode on ethics and advocacy. This episode is a collaboration between Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet and a Nefarious Nightmare podcast. Music used in this episode is from epidemicsound.com. Please leave us a 5-star rating and review on our respective platforms. Any source material or relevant links or trigger warnings will be included in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening and taking action.